Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is Defub21, and today we have a very interesting game, but more than likely for all the wrong reasons. Today we have Metal Gear Survive. This is the first kind of official. I think there might have been a pachinko Metal Gear game announced by Konami since Metal Gear Solid 5 came out. But this is the first kind of proper play it on a console or a PC proper game from the Metal Gear franchise since 5 came out and since Hideo Kojima left Konami. So this has been a rather controversial because it's kind of a survival game with the sort of zombies in it and whatnot, and the reaction from the gaming press and the general public has been, I would say, overwhelmingly negative. So without further ado, we'll have a look at this and then I'll let you know what I think. I think this gameplay video is 10 to 15 minutes long, so it's a bit of a watch, but it'll be very interesting and informative, and we'll get an idea of what this game is like. See you in a moment, or 10 to 15 minutes more specifically.
Peggy 18.
メタルギアサバイブ TGS2016 プレイデモ。これよりメタルギアサバイブの最新ゲームプレイ映像をお届けする。メタルギアサバイブはメタルギアソリッド5ファントムペイン同様、ミッションをクリアすることでストーリーが進行していく。今回はその一部である協力ミッションを紹介しよう。メタルギアサバイブは異世界に飛ばされたマザーベースの兵士たちが元の世界に戻るためにサバイブする物語である。この世界にはワームホールを通じてさまざまな世界から物や人が流れ着く。彼らは素材を集め道具を作り、あらゆるものを利用して元の世界に帰る方法を探し求める。本ミッションの目的は特殊なワームホールの発生地点に発信機を設置し、救難信号を送ることだ。目的地をマークする。今回は2つのチームに分かれて潜入する。
俺についてこい。承知した。幸運を祈る。
こうすることで素材を効率的に回収することが可能となるだろう。クリーチャーだ。この世界で最も頻繁に遭遇する敵となる。頭部が欠損しているな。視界は悪そうだ。複数の敵に正面から向かうのは危険だ。疑似餌を使ってみよう。音と匂いによってうまく疑似餌におびき寄せることができた。背中のコブはクリーチャーの弱点だ。ここを破壊すれば即死させることができる。メタルギアサバイブでは敵クリーチャーも素材として利用することができる。回収しておこう。MGS5 でも活躍したワームホール回収装置を使う。目的地へ行く前に建物内部の素材を回収する。入り口の前にクリーチャーが一体。仲間と協力して排除しよう。このような状況ではスリングショットが有効だ。不意打ちで角に当てれば数秒間意識を奪うことができる。うまくいった。このように地形を利用して敵を倒すことも可能だ。素材を回収する。この後役に立つだろう。別行動中の先行チームはどうしているだろうか。状況を確認しよう。先行したチームも素材を集めながら潜入中だ。クリーチャーたちがいるな。気 気づかれないように進もう。前方にクリーチャーだ。感謝する。足を怪我したようだな。怪我は種類によって様々なデメリットが生じる。急いで治療しなければならない。治療には専用のアイテムが必要となる。素材を集めアイテムを作ることはメタルギアサバイブのミッション攻略において極めて重要となる。治療が完了した。ミッション継続だ。目的地までもう少しだ。目的地は目の前だが、何体かのクリーチャーが行く手を阻んでいる。あんなところに羊が。彼もこの世界に飛ばされてきたのだろうか。同じ漂流者のよしみだ。ここは彼に役立ってもらうことにしよう。これは MGS5 のマルチ対戦モードであるメタルギアオンラインでも登場したフルトンキャノン。仲間が羊を追い立ててくれた。捕獲成功。ところでこの世界には回収ヘリはやってこない。すまないがしばらくそうして浮かんでいてくれ。羊の声におびき寄せられてクリーチャーたちが一箇所に集まった。まとめて倒すことができた。彼にはベースキャンプでゆっくりしてもらう。あれが今回の目的地だ。敵の数が多い。発信機を安全に設置するには全て排除しなければならない。マーカーを設置し集合の合図を送る。
こっちだ。
集合の合図が届いた。急いで合流だ。これよりクリーチャーを排除し目的地を確保する。
ゴーゴーゴー。クリア。クリア。クリア。
目的地の確保に成功した。これより作戦は第2段階へと進む。これまでの潜入ミッションから発信機を敵の襲撃より守る防衛ミッションへと移行する。発信機を設置する。発信機はワームホール技術を利用して転送される。救難信号の発信開始。見晴らしのいい位置から周囲を警戒する。ワームホールから段ボールが出現。
回収して。
仲間の一人が確保に向かう。
この方向から来る。
発信機によって活性化したワームホールのエネルギーに惹かれクリーチャーたちが集まってきた。救難信号を発信する間 発信機を防衛する。
ここを塞いで。
仲間から防衛の要請があった。指定の場所に向かう。フェンスなど防衛ユニットもワームホールを利用して転送設置できる。ユニットは防衛に最適な場所を自由に選んで設置可能だ。他の仲間の状況はどうだろうか。段ボールの回収に向かった仲間だ。ミッション中はただ戦うだけでなく、このようにさまざまな役割を分担することもできる。良い素材が手に入ったようだ。無事守りきることができた。だが次の襲撃が迫っている。防御を固めよう。クラフト台だ。素材を集めればミッション中でもクラフトすることができる。バリケードをクラフトする。
次が来るわ。注意して。
仲間からの連絡が入った。次の敵襲が始まったらしい。有刺鉄線バリケードだ。接触した敵にダメージを与えることができる。フェンスを設置する。幅と高さを併せ持った基本的な防衛ユニットだ。防衛戦闘の一方、素材回収も忘れてはいけない。敵がいる。見つからなよ。窓からの侵入。こちらからも敵だ。
敵が入り込みやがった。
マーカーを設置し仲間に知らせる。
今向かってる。
撃退に成功。素材回収に出ていた仲間が戻ってきた。敵を引き連れてきてしまったのか。素材回収中に発見されたようだな。なんとか撃退することができた。来たぞ。次の襲撃だ。確保した段ボールから入手した素材で機銃をクラフトする。これで広範囲をカバーすることが可能になった。 反対側からも敵が迫っている。
こっちから来るぞ。
今回は敵の数が多い。激戦だ。フェンスには重量に対する耐久度が存在する。多数のクリーチャーが取り付いたらその重みに長くは持たないだろう。敵の数がどんどん増えていく。これはまずい。フェンスが破壊されてしまった。大量の敵がなだれ込んでくる。防ぎきれない。残念ながら撤退する。ミッション失敗だ。メタルギアサバイブ TGS2016 プレイデモ。今回はここまで。ミッションは残念ながら失敗に終わったが、協力ミッションの魅力の一端をご覧いただけたかと思う。メタルギアサバイブにはこの他にも様々なミッションやステージが登場する。それらについては今後の情報にご期待いただきたい。今回は以上だ。最後までのご視聴に感謝する。
Well, what is there to say about this? Well, quite a bit. What there's to say about this? Well, firstly, most obviously, they're using as much of the Metal Gear Solid 5. They're using the Metal Gear Solid 5 engine, but they also appear to be using as much of that game's assets in terms of art assets as possible. Which, you know, I have Metal Gear Solid 5. I haven't gotten around to playing it yet, to my shame. But so I'm not negative. Oh, it looks all the same. Nothing new to it, anything like that. That might rub some people the wrong way. But it does, you know, help them cut costs. And this is not supposed to be a full price game when it comes out. In terms of the actual gameplay and what we see of the game being played, you know, whoever is making this or whoever is in charge of the project has clearly played, to the top of my head, The Last of Us. Those the baddies you see in the only baddies you see in the only enemies you see in the video basically appear to be, for all intents and purposes, clickers. In other words, from The Last of Us. In other words, they can't see with their eyes. They're attracted by sound. So if you stay quiet, you can sneak up behind them and insta kill them, like you can in The Last of Us. In terms of other gameplay elements, I mean, the whole building defensive, like, you know, barriers and stuff is taken. I don't know if Gears of War's Horde mode originally came up with that idea, but it's certainly something that I'm most familiar with first seeing in Gears of War, being able to build fences and put them in place, build defensive machine gun positions and put them in place to defend against waves and after wave of enemies. And that is, again, very much a kind of a Gears of War type, Horde mode type situation. And if there are, you know, bigger, more powerful bad guys, which I assume they are, maybe they're also taking kind of an element of Last of Us, where, well, there isn't clearly an element of Left 4 Dead, where they're throwing large numbers of hordes of, kind of rank and file baddies at you when you're, you know, in this defensive position, like in Left 4 Dead. And I assume if they as noted, they didn't show any in the video and the gameplay demonstration, but they noted that these were the base enemies, so there must be more formidable enemies in it, and I would imagine at least one of them will be some kind of big monstery thing, like, they can't remember the name, but the big beast thing that could throw structures at you and rocks at you and stuff from Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, where you, at the end of each level, you had to defend yourself against a couple of waves of bad guys, and then one of these big feckers would turn up to make your life as miserable as possible until you could escape or kill it. And I think that's what they're going with. So they've basically They seem to have imitated or copied kind of design, gameplay ideas and design ideas from 3 separate Western games. Which is, the Japanese industry is something of a reputation, not completely undeserved, for being somewhat insular in terms of, not really paying attention to what the West is doing and so on. That's maybe gotten them a bit in trouble since the Japanese market, in terms of its share of the global market, particularly for home console games, has declined so dramatically since, again, as I said previously, since the turn of the century. What else is there to say? It is quite interesting to see Konami, of all Japanese publishers, making a game, even if it is a kind of a cut price game, so they're going for like $30 at launch, that is clearly very influenced by 3 kind of action horror games. In other words, Left 4 Dead, Gears of War. Certainly the first game had kind of horror elements to it, and obviously The Last of Us, Left 4 Dead, Last of Us, and Gears of War. That's clearly is taking so much influence in those 3 games in terms of gameplay design of the bad guys, and so on. So it is, it was also kind of credit where credit is due. If you noted there, at one point they create this big tall fence, and then later on they note in the demo that the fence isn't actually damaged by the bad guys attacking it and destroying it like they would barriers in Gears of War, or even passing through it. But as more and more of them pile up against it, eventually they simply overwhelm it. So theoretically, if you could keep enough bad guys away from it, stabbing them in the head with pikes or shooting them dead, it would theoretically never wear out. And I think that's a good step in the right direction, because that's much more realistic than you've seen in video games of these sorts of things before. So it is very kind of interesting. Again, if they open world kind of sandbox games are neither easy nor quick nor cheap to make, and reusing the engine, that's fine. Reusing the engine is fine. The industry, Unreal Engine gets used again and again and again in one game after another. They make iterative improvements and so on, and that's not an issue. And in terms of reusing assets, if it cuts down the development time and saves them money, as long as the game we end up with is good, then, or even great, that's no problem. Particularly if it's only $30, that's not that's, to my mind, a positive. And the question is then, or is therefore, if they appear to be using, I haven't played the game. I own Metal Gear Solid 5, but I haven't played it yet. They seem to have used a lot of the art assets and the terrain, even the character models, the animation, and all the rest, the graphical user interface. They're using as much as they can. But again, if it results in a game that's 30 quid and is actually quite good and fun, and I do like kind of, survival action horror games like Resident Evil 4, the Dead Space series. Res 5 is good too, although it's not as good as 4 because it doesn't improve on Res 4 enough. It's too much of a straight copy set in a different environment for my liking. But yeah, this is very interesting indeed. And it's certainly, my expectations were not high for this. They have been somewhat improved because it looks to be made of a decent, production quality, even if it is using a lot of assets and stuff made for the previous game. And if it does end up coming out for $29.99 and it's good, clean fun, then why not? It's interesting that particularly, again, Konami has made a game, or appears to be making a game, that's been very influenced in terms of its design by 3 quite prominent Western games. By, again, Konami, a Japanese publisher whose reputation with the Western industry and with Western consumers is now so abjectly terrible after what happened with Kojima and other stuff that's come out about how people are treated inside that company. So, that's basically my 2 cents on that. Let me know what you think about this game and what you think about Konami in the comments. If you like this video, please like it. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. This is Defub21. It's a good trailer for video for no other reason than it's raised my expectations and my interest in this game quite substantially. Although it was next to zero before this, so I'm not exactly chomping at the bit / salivating at the thought of getting my hands on it. So without further ado, this is Defub21 signing off. Toodaloo.